Yo, what's going on? Welcome back to another video. So last week I dropped some mad remixes, and amongst all those remixes I also remixed Water by Tyla. Make me sweat. You know what, there's some songs as a man I'm just not gonna sing along to, and that is one of those songs because I'm sure it's for the ladies and all that, because the messaging is all of that. But I remixed that track because it's doing so well, and I wanted to see if I can flip it into some house, see how it's gonna sound. So I dropped a remix. If you haven't listened to it, check it out after this video. But today I'm gonna break down how I produced that remix so that I can show you what I did to create that bang of a remix. It's crazy. I can't wait to show you how I produced everything in there. I'm not gonna play the vocals so that we avoid copyright issues. So this is how the project is looking for this remix. You can see that it's very busy. I didn't do a lot of automation in this track. As you can see, there is some automation, but it's nothing too crazy in my opinion, because I know I could have gone even crazier than this, but I just did some automation on a couple of stuff like cutoffs and sometimes some output volumes, just to bring stuff in a little bit slowly, and just to add some energy, especially on this dark space plug. You can see here I was just bringing the energy up because I automated the cutoff. So with the vocals, all I did was add a compressor just to do some light compression on the vocals, and I also added a stereo delay so that I can add some some character to it, some nice vibe to it, some nice bounce stereo wise, and then some reverb to put it in a space so that it sounds really good. So that's all I did with the vocals. I'm not going to play them in this video because of monetization issues and copyright issues. I don't want to get into that, otherwise this video might get struck or something like that. But the first thing that I did when I started producing this track, I wanted to figure out the bass before I went anywhere else. So I started with this heavy sub bass. That's what that sounds like, right? It sounds like this. It sounds pretty cool like that. So that's what I started with, and then I created this pattern right here. So that's the pattern that I threw on there, and this bass is found in Alchemy, in case you're wondering what kind of bass that is. It's called a heavy sub bass. You can find it in Alchemy. That's the bass here. I didn't add any effects to it because it sounds great as is. And then next up I wanted to add something kind of like a melody, and again I used a sound in Alchemy called dark space plug. So this is the sound. It just repeats those two notes just like that. Super simple. I didn't want to make anything too complicated. And then I just created I just duplicated the same sound, and then I just picked another sound that is different from the one that I chose here. I picked up this noisy plugged synth. So this is what it sounds like. So you can see that it's playing the same sound, the same notes as the dark space plug, right? And with this sound I low passed some of the sound around here by 2500 hertz, and make sure that I just increased a little bit of the low frequencies and all that, because I didn't want it to be too bright. So I just had to take out all those frequencies, the high frequencies, and so the EQ, and there's a little bit of chorus and a little bit of delay to make the sound much more interesting. And then next up I added this warped pluck. It sounds really good. So it's playing something totally different from what I've been showing you earlier. So it's on its own type of journey in the track, but it's complementing the other melodies super nice. And then next up I added this chiptune lead. So this sound is adding a lot of brightness, following the same pattern as the bass. So this is just adding some brightness to the bass, just in case you're listening to this beat like on smaller speakers where you don't have a lot of bass, but I still want you to have an idea of the vibe of the bass. So it's following those same notes. So this is without this chiptune lead. There's no brightness there, and then when I turn it on, you can tell there's some brightness there. And it's also a sound that is in Alchemy right here. That's the plugin. I used a lot of Alchemy because there's amazing sounds in there. Alchemy to me is like the omnisphere of Logic Pro, and you just get it with Logic Pro as it is. It has amazing sounds. Next up I added this different sound here. just like that. That's all I did with the sound because I felt it sounded really cool. So I'm just gonna play it around right here. It sounds really cool, sounds really unique. I wanted to throw it in there just to show some creativity that, you know, these weird sounds can work with this kind of vibe. And then next up I added these strings here that you can see here. So these strings, what they're doing is they're just adding a lot of atmosphere and holding the whole track together. So it's just basically two notes, like as you can see right there. So without the string, the track just sounds empty, it doesn't have atmosphere. It doesn't sound good, but with the strings, it sounds really good. And then I just did a little bit of some EQ, boosting up the, you know, the low mids and then the high mids as well, just to, you know, raise the presence of the sound up a little bit. And then there's just this ensemble plug in here, and then I also added a beat break, and I put the sidechain soft on there so that it can just duck, you know, leave space for the kick a little bit, as you can see here, because I raised this up here so that it's not cutting completely the start of the sound itself. And speaking of the kick, we're gonna get into the kick. The first thing I did was I threw on a top kick that you can see right here. Just like that. I did EQ this top kick a little bit, so I just tamed some of this low mid range around here just to tame it a little bit, and raise some of the mids right there, and just rolled off the low frequencies because we don't want it to be too powerful. We just wanted to kind of just indicate that this is where the kick is supposed to be. And then I just duplicated the same pattern, and then I just replaced the sample with a kick sample so that we can start having a kick. Just following the same pattern. And this kick is my Perfect Kick 2, which you can find in my sample packs and my drum kits, which you can find down below. You can find everything that I use to make my music. You can find my templates. If you want to make things super easy for you to make music, you can check out my templates for Logic Pro. You know, you have projects set up for you. All you just have to do is just now start from there, you know, make your own productions and rearrange everything, and then start from there if you want somewhere to start that is really good to make house music. But if you want to start from scratch, it's all good. You can just get my drum kits and all of that, and then you have all the good stuff that you have. All that's missing is just you to just produce dope stuff, just like I'm doing. I use the same things just to show you that I'm not just, you know, selling sounds that I also don't use. So there you have it. And the next thing, I added a tom, just to add a little bit of a bounce to the drums. And then next up, super interesting thing was this Afro loop to really bring up the vibe. So you can now tell that the Afro vibe is really coming together as soon as this loop kicks in, so it's very important. And the next thing I added was my favorite thing is, you know, one of my favorite things actually is the snare. Just like that. I love the snare. This is snare 5. You can find the snare in my drum kits and sample packs. And then I also threw on a stab, and I added some echo to it, around a half note, and then some silver verb to give it some, you know, some space feeling, so that it feels like it's in space. And then I throw on a hat, a very simple hat. It's not really doing much, it's just holding like that. Then next up I added a head buzzer. So the head buzzer is basically just playing the same notes as the hat that's on top there, and it's just doing the same thing but giving a different vibe. So this is without the head buzzer. So you can hear it as soon as I switched it on, and with this sound I just took off some low frequency energies that I didn't want from that sound, and that's how it sounds. And then next up, I also have this section here where I have this hat here. So this hat is basically like kind of like an open hat. So it plays like this. It's adding some really nice swing to the beat. It's adding some really dope swing. And then next up, I'm going to show you the log drum, which took this track to a whole nother level. So the log drum starts right here. So these are the notes. So that's the log drum right there. So you can tell that it started off different around this section here because I wanted it to just bridge into the next section nicely without, you know, sounding the same, like it's just a single loop. And then next up, when it comes to like the really bouncy place here, I played around with the log drum. Like I held a lot of these notes and then I just had a few notes going up just to give that kind of vibe. So it's that simple. I didn't have too much of those, you know, super drawn out log drum rolls just to be extra with the log drum. I wanted it to be super classy, man. I didn't want it to be too much. So that's how it sounds. So that's how everything came together. And then the next things that I added, like just to keep it simple, was I added some effects, just some miscellaneous effects. That's all the sounds that you see right here, like those little drops of sounds here. It's just simple effects that you can find in my samples that I just threw in there, that are just, you know, super easy going. There's nothing much to do there. And then when it comes to mastering this track, I have a tube EQ right here, just to, you know, EQ a little bit out of it and then add some character with the drive right here. So I just boosted some, you know, some high frequencies right there just to EQ it and give it some texture, and then some compression after that I added here with, you know, just to catch some peaks. So these are my settings. And then I also added an EQ to raise some of the mids and some of the highs to really brighten up the track even more. And then after that, a limiter, which is just really limiting everything and adding a lot of gain, because you can see my gain is set to 6 dB. So I added 6 dB of gain to really get that full loudness. And then after that, just to analyze everything, I added a multimeter so that I can see everything. So this is what the multimeter looks. So you can see what it looks like. You know, it's showing me everything, showing me the LUFS right there, the LUFS, and then it's also showing me the frequencies right here, so I can see everything. And you also have like a goniometer. I don't know how to read that, bro. Just so you can see the stereo image of the whole track, which is really cool. I like that I can see that. It's really cool. So this analyzer is cool because it just shows you everything. I no longer use what's the one that I was using, Lean loudness meter. Ever since I moved to Logic, it's right there. So I'm like, hey man, one less thing to download. But anyways, thank you so much for checking out this video. This is how I remixed Water by Tyla. Let me know if you have any questions down below, and if you want to use anything that I used to make my music again, you can check out the links down below. But other than that, drop this video a like and subscribe if you're new here. If you haven't subscribed already, join the gang. Pound it right there, pound it. But other than that, I'm gonna see you in my next video. I'm X and I'm out. Peace.